We knew it was a big weekend in the NFL. Now it has played out, and it's time to talk about it today on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast.
You are Locked On NFL Scouting with the Draft Dudes, your daily podcast for NFL and college football scouting. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's better than this? It's guys being dudes here on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast. We're the Draft Dudes. I'm Joe Marino from Locked On Bills. He's Kyle Crabbs from Locked On Dolphins. And we are your NFL experts here with you daily to talk team building across the league on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast with the Draft Dudes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'd like to thank you for making Locked On NFL Scouting your first listen every day, and a big welcome and shout out to our everydayers. You know who you are. Those of you who never miss a single episode, we appreciate y'all being here very, very much. Today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates that you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply.
Joe, happy Victory Monday to those who celebrate, although neither one of us is celebrating Victory Monday in week 9.
No, just champions of life over here. You know, that's it. No,
that's right. You know, I just hope everybody had fun.
You know,
I hope everybody had a good time.
You know who had a good time? CJ Stroud, Kyle.
Yeah, well, the ticker's got the NFC games first.
Oh, well, it'll be okay.
Yeah, we should probably start with
That's
CJ
the story
Stroud.
of the weekend, right? It's CJ Stroud.
Who was always QB1 on this show and program, regardless of what company we worked for and what the name of the show was, CJ Stroud was always, for this show, QB1. And he showed why on the same day in which Bryce Young threw pick sixes with a lesser supporting cast around him. CJ Stroud sets the rookie passing record for yards and 470 and 5 touchdowns, including the game-winning drive in the final minute of the game to go down against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and score a game-winning touchdown for a final score of 39-37. 39 points on the Bucs defense.
He was throwing dimes, man. Like the last, I don't know, the whole game, but like the last 2 drives, like very high leverage moments, big throws down the field, confident. What's funny is we talk about supporting cast, right? And like, do you think CJ Stroud's elevating that supporting cast, right?
I think elevated is probably the appropriate way to put it. Yes.
So we're always going to compare Bryce Young to CJ Stroud. That is the world that we're going to live in forever. Going into the season, did we really think that CJ Stroud had the better supporting cast?
I think we knew there were major questions with each. I think we looked at the offensive line of Houston and felt it was better than Carolina's. You can let me know if we're misappropriating this when you factored in the injuries that you knew were going to be a part of Carolina's offensive line. I think you looked at the skill players, the wide receivers, you probably felt better about Houston's. We talked about the upside of Nico Collins and getting Tank Dell and Metch getting. So it's Robert Woods. Like, it's not necessarily the distribution we thought it would look like. But I did think we probably felt it was a marginally better supporting cast. We did this, didn't we?
We did do the coaching piece of it, right? You had a lot of veteran coaches for Carolina and Houston. Yep. We're like, Bobby Slowick, first year offensive coordinator.
We thought Stroud's transition into that scheme would take a little longer than obviously what it has too.
Yeah,
but he played at Ohio State, so.
Right. 9 games or 8 games does not make a career, but my goodness, you've got to be swooning if you're a Texans fan.
And you're over the moon. You are absolutely over the moon at the way that this has looked for CJ Stroud. And then to have this kind of performance, this is like
big boy stuff.
Big time QB stuff.
Yeah.
I'm looking to see where I stashed our QB situations in the midst of all the Google Sheets that we have for this program. So if you want to filibuster or talk about something else for a minute, you feel free.
Well, I guess the natural thing is to flip to the other side of that conversation. The Carolina Panthers falling 27-13 to the Colts after they beat Houston, right? And kind of bottled up CJ Stroud in that game. But as we know, there's no transitive property in football, and the Panthers fall at home 27-13. You mentioned 2 pick sixes for Bryce Young, 3 interceptions in total for the game. And it's hard to win football games like that. It's not like the Colts were a juggernaut on offense and, really put all this heat on him. You turned over the football and it took away your chances to win a game, right? And so that's kind of your issue. Obviously, 4 more sacks given up by the Panthers offensive line. But you continue to have questions about all of the process that led to Carolina being where they're at, and really, and on the contrary, celebrating what Houston's done to position themselves moving forward.
Okay, so this is fun. I found the content I was searching for. So in the summertime, every year, Joe and I look at rookie quarterback classes of first-round quarterbacks, and we rate on a scale of 1 to 5 their situation with coaching, quarterback room, run game, offensive line, pass catchers, and defense. On a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being the worst you've ever seen, 5 being an ideal situation. Joe, we both had a big nod in coaching in favor of Bryce Young when looking at their coaching staffs.
Yeah, McCown, Brown, Frank Reich. You felt good about that, right?
Yep. You looked at the supporting cast around them. They're the other quarterbacks in the room, the run game, the offensive line, and the pass catchers. I had it dead even. Same amount of points, just differently distributed. I had Carolina's quarterback room ranked a little higher. I had Houston's offensive line ranked a little higher. Joe had CJ Stroud's offensive situation graded higher by 0.5 point. Now, we both gave Carolina the nod with coaching, and we both gave Carolina the nod with defense. So that's how, if you looked at the rankings, the entirety of the project had Bryce Young ranked higher. But if you looked at just the offensive groups around these players, dead even, and CJ Stroud 0.5 point higher for you.
But that's not how we feel right now. People are saying, well, Bryce Young just doesn't have what he needs around him, but we're not even extending that all to CJ Stroud.
Or maybe one of these players' style of play was always just going to take a more dramatic timeline to get acclimated to playing at the professional level.
And that Texans offensive line hasn't been what they wanted it to be this year in terms of injuries and moving people around. And Titus Howard's playing left guard and every other thing, They haven't had Pierce every week. Young receivers, for the most part, that they were counting on emerging. I mean, compare what Nico Collins and Tank Dell are doing to Terrence Marshall and Jonathan Mingo. It's working out on one side. It's not working out on the other.
Right.
Other rookie quarterbacks played.
We had a cameo by Jaren Hall. Hopefully he's okay. Yielded the incredible Josh Dobbs storyline of him getting traded to Minnesota, coming in, effectively getting the plays translated by Kevin O'Connell to Josh Dobbs as they're calling the game, and he's working with his offensive line to get his cadence down on the sideline. And they come back and win that football game. That's pretty incredible. Shame on the Atlanta Falcons.
Shame on the Atlanta Falcons. Baker Mayfield did this last year with the Rams, right? For like this one game, you're like, how did this happen?
It was a Thursday game too, wasn't it?
It's almost like sometimes you just dumb it down, right? Just do this. Just go do this thing.
Right. Go do this thing.
It works.
They got no tape on you in this situation. None. Just go.
Yeah. Just go. You got to give Kevin O'Connell, to me, a lot of love for what this team has been this year. And then being able to win these recent games with Kirk Cousins going down, Justin Jefferson going down, Cam Akers goes down again. They've had Darrisaw's been out on offense, and they're somehow they're finding a way. Kudos.
They're the 7th seed right now,
and they deserve it. They deserve it more right now than they did last year. Whatever they were, 14 wins or whatever they had. I'm more impressed with this team.
They will probably lose next week at home against the Saints, but then probably beat the Broncos and the Bears before a Week 13 bye.
Kevin O'Connell, man, give the man a little love. He deserves it. He's finding a way.
You feel that they have a decent chance to have 7 wins be 7-5 before the bye. Even if they beat the Saints and I doubt they'd win all 3 games, but they've won the last 4, and this was the most improbable one yet, and it included a fourth quarter game-winning drive come from behind execution by Josh Dobbs. Make it make sense. You can't.
Football, man. Football is fun. Football hurts at times, but it's football. All right, we got a bunch more to reflect on this from this weekend, including some big matchups, but we got to tell you about LinkedIn Jobs. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free, and it is so easy to create a free job post over at LinkedIn Jobs, and then once you do, add your job with the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring. And simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you could quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. That's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates that you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply.
So we're not really playing by the rules today, but that's okay. It was largely NFC focused.
Yeah.
We had the Commanders beat the Patriots in Foxborough. Interception by Washington. I think it was Quan Martin that made the play. That prevented Mac Jones' second career game-winning drive. Looked like they were going to get it. They had some momentum. They were in scoring and plus territory. You had Philadelphia on Sunday night or on Sunday afternoon provide the almost choke because they were up. What was it, like 11 points at one point? They were up 2 scores at one point late in this football game.
Didn't feel like it was going to get close, and then it did.
Dallas watched the Dolphins fall apart in scoring territory against the Chiefs that morning and said, hold my beer, watch this. We're going to get down to, I think, the 6-yard line. And just had a nuclear end of game sequence between the penalties.
The whole thing was clunky.
What a disaster. You end up with like 4th and goal from the 26 or something like that.
Kyle, they were 1st and 5 from the 6. That's right. 1st and 5 from the 6 to 3rd and 26 from the 27.
Yeah.
Bad.
Big
what are we doing with Sam
high
Howell,
leverage
man?
game too.
I don't want to go get away from Dallas and Philly, but we mentioned the Commanders. What are we doing with Sam Howell? Are we building around this guy?
Reports indicate that many in the Washington building feel like that's the quarterback of the future, which I think is interesting because of the brain trust of the team and the head coach and the coaching staff. Who amongst there is going to be there next year?
Good question.
So I think it's very interesting that the reports come out that the Washington building feels as though Sam Howell's okay. Who feels that way? Who has the liberty to say that way?
Magic
other
Johnson,
than Josh Harris, who just bought the team.
Magic Johnson and his Twitter account.
Those are the people in position to have an opinion that would mean something because of Washington. Are they going to make a potential playoff wildcard run? They're going to go to Seattle next week. Then they got Dallas on a short week. Then they're hosting Miami. Got to go 2 New York Jets. They got to play the 49ers and the Cowboys again.
That seems like a nightmarish situation there.
I glossed over playing the New York Giants. I didn't mention another West Coast trip to go play the LA Rams. That's it. That's the remaining schedule. So it's like, does a playoff berth for Washington, if they're able to stack it together after selling 2 pass rusher assets at the trade deadline, does that get everybody back in the building again next year? And how much of a leash would you have if it did? I don't know. But Howell's just throwing the ball all over the place. And he has nice throws on a weekly basis. There's
Tough
something
guy
here, but we knew that. We knew that.
Yeah, something's turning into something, though. Go ahead. Kind of Baker Mayfield-y, you said?
Yeah. I think that's when I watch Sam Howell, that's the vibe that I get. And I think Baker, in a good situation can be a above average starting quarterback. And I just feel no reason to feel like Sam Howell couldn't do that as well with more time and investment.
Back to Dallas and Philly. I mean, with Dallas, it's like CeeDee Lamb or bust for that offense, it feels like. Michael Gallup with that egregious third down drop. I mean, Jake Ferguson, credit to him, he had a really good game. But there's just not enough different things. They don't have enough levers on that offense to pull in use. I mean, and the high leverage situation, and they're throwing a contested ball to Jalen Tolbert.
I thought the Philly pass rush really showed up late too. Because you're watching that game unfold, it's like, okay, like Dallas is doing a pretty good job, and then they get into the 2-minute drive situation, and Dak had to do everything off script because the pass rush really turned it up.
And Dak had some good moments there too. Like he had some impressive moments, but like situationally, this is not a very sound football team. They're sloppy.
So Philly now climbs, I guess technically 3 games. They've played 9 games versus Dallas's 8, but they have a head-to-head win. So you're talking 3 games plus 3 games in the division at this stage for Philadelphia. So you feel like they're going to be probably in a position to slam the door shut. Although their next 5 games after their Week 10 bye are at Kansas City, hosting Buffalo, hosting San Francisco, at Dallas, and at Seattle.
Not a walk in the park.
Well, it really comes down to what can Dallas do in this stretch. Here you go. Their next 3 games: Giants, Panthers, and Commanders.
Just what the doctor ordered.
And 2 of those are home Thursday games.
Oh,
and then they get a mini bye before Philly comes to town.
So it's going to be not over.
No, but if Philly goes out and they beat the Chiefs and the Bills, if they win 2 out of 3,
kind of expect them to do that though.
It's done.
I kind of expect them to do that. Yeah,
I do. And the bye's coming at a good time with Jalen Hurts getting banged up with the knee.
Yeah.
And now having a bye and a chance to rest that. He's been wearing a brace since I think the Miami game was when it first got.
Corners got hurt late in that game. I'm not sure of the severity, but
right.
Health there will be nice. Obviously, more time to onboard Kevin Byard.
This is technically an AFC segment, so let's talk about it. Did you see Jim Irsay dancing in the locker room after the game?
Oh, yeah. I did.
You're going to get this reference. Not a lot of people are. It was an awesome impression of Ozzy Osbourne at halftime of the 2022 season opener in LA.
A reference that only I would get. Yeah, because how many people were in SoFi that night? 80,000 or something like that.
80,000, and I think we were the only ones still sitting in our seats for halftime.
End of list, right? That's the only people that saw it for a reason. They didn't put that on TV because there was a good chance Ozzy was not going to make it through the performance. Whoa, baby!
Because he was holding on to that mic stand for dear life, and I'm watching Jim Irsay, and I'm like, he might go over.
Life. Yeah, no, dude, that was hard to watch, man. Hard to watch.
But my other thought that's not related to the Colts: if the playoffs started today, the entire AFC North would make the playoffs.
It's such a fascinating situation because, like, objectively, you have some funky teams. You have Pittsburgh, who's like not outplaying anybody, and they're 5-3.
Right.
You have
the Bengals with 1 AFC conference win,
right,
and it just came last night because they swept the NFC West,
right. And whatever you're making of Cleveland, like I know the last 2 Deshaun Watson starts have been better, but like you're in the position that you are not because of quarterback play. And maybe that makes it exciting because you feel like that could be improved, but defensively, like you're obviously like the best defense in the league or close to it.
Deshaun Watson's going to have a rough go the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, like how do you consider Tennessee and Arizona? He played good.
He's at Baltimore.
Gonna be tough. That's a good defense.
Baltimore's killing people. Baltimore's absolutely destroying people at home. In a weird way in which, like, they just decided we're going to run over Seattle. I think there's some credit there to the amorphous nature of that team.
Amorphous.
If they need to pass it's like a shapeless. If we need to pass to beat you, we can pass to beat you. It's maybe not where we're best,
Oh, baby, this is new
If we need to run the
vocabulary
ball,
for
like
Joe here.
if we need to run the ball and run you over, we'll run the ball and run you over. And that's exactly what they did to Seattle. And the defense is just dogs. Dogs. They get a week 13 bye too. They got to love having a week 13 bye.
For people that just need to know, amorphous is spelled in Amorphous.
Amorphous.
Without a clearly defined shape or form. Kyle, I mean, you're throwing $10 words out there just in stride, baby. I mean, that was one of the most impressive things I've seen in a while.
Thank you.
Kudos, hat tip. That was you and Kevin O'Connell really caught my attention here in the last
that's right
36 hours. Okay, we got more to get to here. But what you need to do is get to FanDuel. Score early this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers are getting a $150 bonus bet with any winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your team wins. So if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app, super easy to use, and there's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. I won on FanDuel last night. I had the over on Joe Burrow passing touchdowns. I had it at 1.5. I had 2. I had the over on Dalton Kincaid receptions and receiving yards, which they had at like 3.5 and 40.
You went big.
Yeah.
Stealing money.
I did, but I didn't. I also had 2 passing touchdowns for Josh Allen. So I went 4 out of 5 on my FanDuel. So I did good. I won. So check it out. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and enjoy this NFL season. Again, bonus bets, $150 in bonus bets with a winning $5 money line bet. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL.
Do you have any other Week 9 takes before we dive into some thought or not, which was widely requested from my subtext group to return this week? People enjoy that.
I think we got to acknowledge there's 2 other huge games. We got to acknowledge Chiefs and Dolphins and Bills and Bengals.
Yeah, we'll save it till segment 3 so that we didn't just say, oh, these are the shows that we do individually. We're going to bludgeon you over the top with them at the top of the show. That's fair.
Obviously, if you want the full fleshed out thoughts, listen to Locked On Dolphins, Locked On Bills.
I had a show yesterday.
One of those?
Did you know what my most notorious podcast was in the history of doing Locked On Dolphins?
I know. It's week 2, Buffalo 2020. Yeah.
2020. Yep.
Yeah. It still comes up all the time.
The show comes up all the time because I hammered the team that game. This was probably an 8.5 out of 10 on that scale. Clock hit 000s, and I immediately walked upstairs and just hit record. So I don't know. Don't spot the Chiefs 21 points. Defense was outstanding. You get Jalen Ramsey, Xavier Howard back with Jalen Phillips healthy, Bradley Chubb. Chiefs go down the field, score on their opening drive. They get 7 points offensively for the next 57 minutes of game clock.
Mm-hmm.
You're scratching and clawing offensively, shooting yourself in the foot every which way possible. You get into an end-of-game situation. You have a miscommunication on third down where the quarterback signals a route and throws one route, and the wide receiver runs another and was open down the field if they would have just ran the go ball to begin with. And then on fourth down, we can't catch the snap from the center, which was maybe a foot too far to the right, but still very easily catchable. It's 4th and 10, Joe. And what do? We fall on the ball. He fell on the ball on 4th and 10. Try to pick it up. Try to do something. Who knows? Maybe it gets batted around and somebody picks it up and runs for a first down. But you know what you can't do on 4th and 10, down 7 points with a minute left in the game? Fall on the ball. You can't drop the snap, but then you can't fall on the ball. So, I don't know. I mean, the narratives around Miami and beating good teams versus not beating good teams, it's warranted at this stage until they prove otherwise. There's significant concern about the offense's ability to travel, which underscores the team's ability to, your next 5 is Raiders, Jets, Commanders, Titans, Jets. I don't know if you're serious about putting yourself in position to win playoff games this year, you got to win all 5 games. Like, that's all there is to it. Or at least go 4-1.
Got a good chance of that, I would say. Yeah, they got a good chance of that. And I mean,
that's my thoughts on Miami is don't spot the Chiefs 21 points. You can very easily point to the fumble at the end of the first half. but that just embodies the game for them. And the narrative and the questions are warranted. I don't think there's any question Miami's a good team, but they have the potential to be a great team. And I think the worst thing that ever happened to that team was scoring 70 points in week 3, because now that's the measuring stick that they get put on offensively every single week. It's okay to score 17 points in a game sometimes.
Yeah. Well, I think you said it to me. It's like, why couldn't they just score 45, 40, 50? Right. Right. But yeah, that's
win 49-20. And then all of a sudden this doesn't become what the expectation is every single week that if you don't score 35 points, then it's like, see, we knew they weren't good. Like, come on.
Surprising. I mean, Chiefs defense have been good, and Dolphins are certainly playing a lot better on defense. Both teams under 300 yards. That's pretty surprising. I know it's a Germany game, but like this wound up being a defensive game, which was a little bit surprising. I think it speaks to some of the concerns with Kansas City and what they have to lean on offensively. I think their tackles are rough. I mean, their receivers are rough. I mean, there's not a lot of separation.
They're rough on the edges in both phases of offense, right? The perimeter receivers,
that's a good way to put it.
The offensive line. I mean, it's just that you're not going to win there. So if you have studs at those premium positions, you can challenge Kansas City.
Yeah. And then Miami just like you mentioned, kind of shooting themselves in the foot, and kind of the way that they play offense. I think it makes sense to me that there's such a stark difference in how they perform at home versus on the road, where some of the pre-snap stuff, communication, stuff like that just seems to get in their way more away from Hard Rock. And I think they got to figure that out a little bit, or else that's going to be tough sledding.
That's what they got to do on the bye, because they're on the bye this week. So we got to look in the mirror and ask how we can streamline that process a little bit.
Bills 18, Bengals 24, a game that wound up being a little closer than it felt. Bengals are back, right? Joe Burrow is playing good football. Defensively, Lou Anarumo is getting the most out of his team in the most critical situations, and the Bills just continue offensively to find a lot of inconsistency. They scored on their first and last drives. They had 9 offensive drives, touchdown on the first one, touchdown on the last one. The middle 7, you had 3 points and two turnovers, right? You're just not going to win football games like that. And you've played 9 games this year, and I think 6 times offensively you have just not been able to find yourself. And to me, very unacceptable given what you have on offense and not injuries, right? Like defensively, I have grace because of injuries. And even last night, it got worse with Terrell Bernard going down early in the game, and you lose both corners. You're down to like your 5th and 6th corners. Like I have grace for the defense, even though there's concerns there. They have only forced 1 turnover in the last 4 games, right? There's concerns on defense. But offensively, for you to be in these lulls and these ruts consistently, like not sometimes, but like literally all the time, it's tough sledding. And so I think you're falling behind here in this AFC. You're falling behind in your own division. I mean, for as much as I think we just talked about the Dolphins and some of their concerns, they got to feel a lot better about their chances of going and winning this division and playing a home playoff game, at least one, based on just kind of the way that Buffalo, the team that they're telling us that they are this year. And you can't rule out the Jets, right? The Jets win tonight, they're going to be in pretty good shape here with a lot of head-to-head opportunities. So it's the Bills are telling you that they're an average football team. I think you should believe them.
Thought or not? I have one I'd like to start
with. Okay.
The AFC 1 seed will have at least 4 losses.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Kansas City's currently in that spot. They're 7-2. They play Philly coming out of their Week 10 bye at home.
I don't like that for them.
They host the Bills Week 14.
I actually think the Bills are a better matchup. Like I think the Bills have a better chance of beating Kansas City than they did Cincinnati.
But you have Cincinnati in Arrowhead Week 17.
Don't like that.
And then you have Kansas City at Chargers Week 18 to close the season. As far as games that stand out, as like, yeah, they could potentially lose that football game.
Never know when a Colts situation is going to happen, right?
Right.
I guess did they already have it against Denver?
4 games. That gives you 4 games that you would perceive to be losable. I would guess they lose Philly and Cincinnati, which would give them 4 losses. The Baltimore Ravens, also 7-2. They are at home against the Browns next week. Then they are at home on Thursday Night Football against the Bengals in Week 11. They have to travel to the West Coast to play the Chargers, week 12. They're in Jacksonville, week 15. They're in San Francisco on Monday Night Football, week 16. And they're home hosting the Dolphins, week 17. We're losing 2?
We're losing 2.
Okay. And then that would give the Jaguars are the only other 2-loss team in the conference right now. They are home against San Francisco, home against Cincinnati on Monday Night Football, week 13, home against the Ravens, week 15. And that's it.
Yeah. Your number one seed's going to have.
Stand out.
Yeah. Kyle, real quick. The 1 game bump from firing your coach is undefeated. There it is, baby. Imagine believing in Tommy DeVito.
Well, and bummer for Daniel Jones, right? Comes
bummer.
back from a neck injury and immediately goes down with what they're imaging for an MRI for to see if it's a torn ACL today. And
yeah,
at that point, put him on ice this season, right?
So between the Raiders' 30-6 win over the Giants and like the Commanders didn't fire Ron Rivera, but they also kind of told you like they had a clear signal from
with the sell at the trade deadline.
Yeah, it's like, all right, here it is. So remember that next year, this time of year, right? 1 game bumps, they're very, very real.
We'll see what happens with the Raiders. They're home against the Jets next week.
The 4-5 Raiders.
So that's going to be a 12-10 football game, right? There's that for thought or not. It'd be 12-10.
Taking the over on 22 points.
Rookie quarterback Aiden O'Connell going against the New York Jets defense.
Nightmare. Can the Jets score a few points, though? That's going to be the real question.
Right. Low-key, some fun games next week. You have San Francisco at Jacksonville.
Fun.
You have
both teams coming off buys. That's interesting, right?
Both teams coming off buys. You have Houston at Cincinnati for a really fun game.
Yeah, that'll be priority watching there.
You have Cleveland at Baltimore.
Huge.
Man, the NFC slate stinks.
Lions Chargers is remotely interesting.
New Orleans Vikings, New Orleans Minnesota. Those teams always get weird when they play each other. They're both
have no idea what to expect from either team game.
Right. Do you get Tyson Bagent versus Bryce Young in a rookie quarterback matchup on Thursday Night Football? Probably not. It seems like it's angling towards Justin Fields returning a quarterback for Chicago.
Packers Steelers.
Yeah. Stoppable
Blue Bloods.
Movable object. And low-key, you have the Chiefs, Eagles, and Dolphins on buys. You'll miss those teams on the docket for games to watch.
Commanders, Seahawks.
Seahawks and Geno, a little bit of trouble here now, isn't he?
I know, like, this is going to be like such a shallow thing that I'm going to say, but I'll say it anyways.
You wanted to say it last week.
Every time I watch the Seahawks, they look so bad to me. Like, and I know that Geno Smith has good games, but my eyes have not seen him. I've not seen him.
I know Pete Carroll was asked after the game a little bit about the turnovers. I mean, Geno's got 46% completion percentage against Baltimore, was sacked 4 times, had a fumble. It's just not. There's the regression. I think the regression that happened at the end of last year that we were worried about, he has not definitively answered the question about this season.
And I think Seattle's the type of team that if they like a quarterback, they should go get one. You know what I mean? Like, that deal was never prohibitive, and I feel like they should be aggressive to go do some things here with some of their other young talent that I really like, and some of the veterans that they've sprinkled in. So I'd advocate for them being a big aggressive team for a quarterback.
Yeah. The last game Geno did not throw at least one interception was week 4 against the Giants, in which he attempted 20 passes for 110 yards.
Let's do that for Josh Allen. When was the last time that happened?
Miami. Same week 4.
But had the Bills played one more game?
Yeah, they had a bye in there.
Yeah, so
they had a week 5 bye.
Josh's streak's at 5.
At 5?
5.
Well, you can tell everybody's in a great mood this morning here on Locked
Yay, football!
Yay, football is fun, as Joe Marino said. That's going to do it for us. You can find us on YouTube or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Appreciate you guys checking out the show. Enjoy Monday Night Football. We'll be back again tomorrow. AFC Conference Power Rankings on the docket. Is that the plan?
Sure.
Sure. All right. Come on back. See you then. See you.